because I'm always learning, right? I'm only 28, guys.
Bro, can you stop talking about yourself constantly? Okay, let's move forward.
Does that bother you?
It's bothering everyone. It does. Yeah, you may be obsessed with yourself. That's fine, but keep it outside of your push to talk. Okay, you're the only one in here obsessed with yourself.
Shut up, Gatebreaker. We like hearing his voice.
Guys, let's just.
No, it's fucking
Can we
getting
all get
annoying,
along?
dude.
Oh, I can just
Hold on,
leave.
your
So I'll
horse.
see you guys later.
Shut
Yeah,
up,
see ya,
Gatebreaker.
bud. See ya.
Don't
Since
go,
you
bro.
volunteered.
Denny, don't go.
Good. He volunteered. It wasn't your
See what
choice.
you did?
He chose to
See
leave.
what you did, Glory? Why'd you
He
do that,
chose to
Glory?
leave.
Sure.
All right,
chose to leave.
everybody, go over to Denny's server now.
Hold on your horses. We
Way
are
to
leaving.
go, Gatebreaker. You freaking chased him off. Way to go. Good job.
Have you seen the movie called Matrix? He apparently is the Neo from that movie, so don't push on him too hard. He's
Stop
the
talking
chosen
about
one.
what
Main
people
character-
are and what we think of
Let's
them.
try not.
Can we get
don't
on a
mock other
topic,
people.
please?
Don't
Can
mock
we
other
get on
people.
a topic?
Word up there, good white infinity boy.
Oh, what
What's
up,
happening?
Snacks?
What it is?
Well,
Hey, how's
here's
your
one.
how's your
So,
AI
here we go.
doing? You said you're getting close.
Oh boy, yeah. I think I
Any
just
update?
achieved liftoff with it. Yeah, now.
Have
So I'm
anyone
able to
seen? I'm
do
sorry.
things.
Go ahead.
Why don't you go for it, man?
Did
I think
anybody
we had enough
see
weird
Will
intellectual
Duffy's?
talk.
Anybody see Will Duffy's new video?
Who's Will Duffy?
The documentary coming out. Who's Will Duffy? Good one.
Forgot about that guy.
Yeah, he's.
Was he the one who paid a bunch of YouTubers to go to Antarctica because he was insecure that people thought the Earth was something different than what he thought it was?
Yep, that guy.
That guy. Oh, okay. What's his video on?
Well, I did post in the chat in case anybody was curious, but the
gonna be
documentary that was supposed to be out should be coming out in the next 2 months or so.
What's it coming out on? Just on YouTube?
Not sure about that, but I'm not sure what platform it's going to be on, but should be coming soon.
Yeah, I don't think he has a very strong position. Like, I know he was trying to raise a bunch of money to try to do it. So, like, I don't really think the world at large is probably going to be that interested in it, because most people don't really know what, like, the contention was with the AE map thing that was kind of, put in front of everybody, basically, the AE map. And I mean, there's been 2 Earth models that have been put out to the humanity, the globe and that AE map one, So those are like the 2 that have been kind of promulgated. And so most people out in the world don't really know like why there was a contention between those and having to do with the sun there. So I think it's a hard sell,
Well, regardless, I mean, lots of people watched Behind the Curve, right?
Yeah, but that was on Flat Earth in general, and everybody loves. That was on Flat Earth in general, and everybody loves Flat Earth. So
I mean,
everyone loves Flat Earth. So I mean, that's just on Flat Earth, and like people just are always attracted to Flat Earth.
It's kind of the same thing, isn't it? Or no?
The sun in the south? No, that's not really Flat Earth.
No, yeah, it's going to be a Flat Earth 3-hour total mini series, and he's selling it to network. I'm not sure where it's going though.
You guys love putting Flat Earth out there, that's for sure. Spread the word.
I think they cut it down to about 90 minutes.
No, they didn't. No, they decided to keep all of it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
just keep pushing that Flat Earth out to the rest of the world. I appreciate you. Thank you.
You guys are doing the work for us.
Well, yeah. Well, let's get more eyes on it, right? Yeah, sure.
Do you guys actually think that the way that Flat Earth was portrayed in Behind the Curve is an attempt to bring people towards it?
Doesn't even matter.
You think there was any video editing done on that documentary? Do you think there's stuff they left out?
It's a movie, so
stuff,
necessarily there'd be editing.
Well, what do you think they would leave out, Rob?
Footage that was recorded, maybe cut right before they turned on the camera. They were saying things.
Oh,
and
you
then
mean
they
the
cut
time
that
when?
out of the video. But
You
then
mean
they
when
put
Bob?
other little mini clips that they. Yeah, go ahead.
My bad. I thought you were kept stopping, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thanks, Nat Geo, for lying to us about what the shape of the Earth really is.
Rob, you mean the time?
I'm
You
gonna
mean they
say.
cut out? They
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, I don't believe that the Earth that I walk on has to have a shape, flat or sphere. I believe I just live in reality. Thank you.
Okay. But
Can you not
are
have a
you
shape?
talking about? Are you talking about like maybe that part they put in there that wasn't supposed to be in there when Bob Nodell said they measured the rotation of the Earth, and if they put it out, it'd be bad.
Now, is there any extra context that should have been with that, or no?
I mean, he probably didn't want that to
Okay,
be in there,
don't
but
answer my question then. Okay.
he probably didn't want that to be aired, but it was there.
I
Yes, it
could
was
give a fuck if
deceptively
that was there.
edited.
You didn't answer my question.
You mean was there footage that wasn't put in there? Probably, yeah. I don't know. I wasn't in the production of it.
Yeah, it was
There you go.
deceptively
You
edited.
just don't watch the movie.
Of course it was. Had to be, right?
Okay, I was trying to get in. Yeah, it's very deceptively edited. Bob knows about the Sagnac effect. He knew about the Sagnac effect far before he even played with any gyroscopes. So it was not anything new to him. It's not like he found that and was like, oh my gosh, this is mind blowing. He knows about the Sagnac effect. The Sagnac effect is used in all gyroscopes and airplanes. He was a pilot, as far as I understood, as well. So that wasn't something new. And he also thought that the Sagnac effect was caused by the ether. So he conflict, as far as I remember what he used to say, in terms of that could have been having anything to do with Earth rotation. So he didn't find Earth rotated nor thought Earth rotated from anything I ever heard him say. He always thought it had to do with the ether. So I mean,
I think
trying to frame him in some way like he found a gyroscope and was like, "Oh my gosh, it's picking up the Sagnac effect. Maybe we're on a big rotating ball," is just not in alignment with anything I ever heard him say.
No, I think it was more like once they found out that they picked up something that was closer rotation of the Earth, they had to attribute it to something else other than the Earth
He
rotating.
knew that though. He knew that even before any of the talk of him having a gyroscope. He knew
okay.
he knew the sidereal motion was a thing, and that the Sagnac effect. You think Bob didn't know about the Sagnac effect? I mean, he
Well,
obviously,
agree to disagree. Okay, sure.
you don't think Bob knew what the Sagnac effect was? He's been talking about it for years on
I don't know.
Glowbusters.
I don't know. You probably know. You know him better than I do, right? So maybe
I
you
don't
do.
know. I never met him. I don't know him at all, but I did listen to Glowbusters. Did you? I'm sure you did. You're a big fan of all this, so
No,
you
not
listened
much.
to it. So you never listened to Glowbusters. So you don't even know what he said. You're just taking the
No,
deceptive,
all I know.
adding
No,
false
all I
information.
know is what was shown in the documentary, what he said in the documentary. So if there's any
Okay, so you
context behind that, so I don't
so you're
know.
taking a deceptively edited movie and then making misinformation claims about him?
I mean, you're claiming it's deceptively edited because what it shows Flat Earth to be in a not a very good light. Is that why it was deceptive?
No, I didn't say anything about a flat Earth or deceptive light. I didn't say any of those words whatsoever. It was
Okay.
deceptively edited because it was taken out of context. Like Rob's saying, was there more context behind that? And there was. And if you knew Bob or listened to what he said for years and years, you would know what that context was.
Then why did he say what he was saying then? If we put that out, it'd be bad. If anybody knew what we found, it'd be bad. Why would he say that then? Was that deceptively edited? Did he not
Yes,
say
it's
that? Did he say
deceptively
something
edited
else?
when you take yes, it's deceptively edited when you take one cut of what someone said without all the context. Yeah. And when you make it
Yeah.
look like
What does
something it
that tell
wasn't.
you about the ether?
Okay,
Yeah.
so what
Did they
did he
mention
really
anything?
say then?
No, hang
Yeah,
on,
but what's
guys.
the missing context?
Yeah. Did they mention anything about Bob Nodell's thoughts on ether before putting that clip in the movie? Do they
I mean,
add
did
context?
Bob say anything about
Yeah,
it?
go ahead. Don't let me
Did he
finish. Go ahead,
say
guys.
that?
You asked the question, didn't you,
Or
Rob?
you just keep asking the same question over and over again?
It was.
We can play the clip.
Yeah, can you play what was said before and after the clip, or his thoughts
that
on the
wasn't in
ether?
there. Well, that wasn't in
No
there.
shit.
So Well, why would he say something close to the rotation of the Earth?
But do you know that he said something about it on camera? Did he say
Right.
something about it?
He would have said
You're-
something like that on his show. He would have said, "Yeah, they didn't put they changed the context of what I said in the video." He never mentioned any of that.
And you know that
Now,
because you
now,
watched Glowbusters after the thing was
Did-
released and heard him
okay,
talk about
then
Did
I would have
you?
heard about it. No, I didn't. But
You
do you
watched
have a
Globe watched
well? Do you have
Glowbusters
a
and you
clip?
heard him talk about it. Okay, go ahead.
Do you have a clip of him saying they took what he said out of context?
So we got to go back and
I don't know.
find for
They're
you
claiming that he said something.
him talking about the editing of the film.
Now, I will say that, of course, what
And
happened
his
with
thoughts on Ether.
okay, I will say that what the clip with Jaronism, that was probably deceptively edited. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But what
But
Bob
you won't
Nodell,
give the other
what Bob Nodell said,
interesting.
what Bob Nodell said, I don't ever remember him going back and saying that's not actually what I said. That was taken out of context. Now, if you
But
have
you
a
didn't.
clip of him saying that, then I'll take that back.
Well, you said you didn't watch his content, so how would you? You didn't watch any of his shows?
I mean, if you have now, if you have a clip of him saying that, then okay. But I never remember him saying anything like, "Hey, that's not what I
Yeah,
said
so now
before."
you
Before
want
I
me to go
said
look for the
that,
clip for you.
I mean, you're claiming that that exists, right?
And I got to go find it
Or
for
you're
you,
assuming,
right?
or you,
Is that what you're
or
saying?
you.
I got to go find it for
I
you?
don't know. Would you like to? I'm not telling you to do anything.
Yeah,
No, but you're
it's
not
just
going to
kind of
believe us when we say you had different thoughts on Ether. That was why it did that.
Yeah, that was after the fact. That was after the fact. Oh, it
Oh,
could be the
fuck.
ether. It was after the fact.
yeah. Like
Because
usually,
I literally.
if someone
Go ahead.
says something and it's like you're saying that you're taking them out of context, saying that you don't know what the context actually was just shows that you're assuming it was taken out of context and don't know that it was.
Okay, well, anyone who knew Bob's work over all of the years, far, far, far before that movie was even filmed, Bob knew about the Sagnac effect. He talked about ether thoroughly. He talked about how the ring laser gyroscopes are have the precession effect due to ether. So he talked about that thoroughly. As far as I ever heard Bob, I've never met Bob. I didn't know him personally. I only listened to his content and stuff over the years. So all I'm saying is that I never once heard Bob in any way indicate that he thought the Earth was a sphere or rotating. So that's one thing. Secondly, he always talked about the ether and that, and in terms of ether drift and so on. And he talked about a lot of the, the Steinmetz and a lot of these guys going back in history, in terms of ether. So I'm just saying, I don't think Bob ever, as far as I ever know, ever indicated that he thought the Earth was in any motion or that the precession effect of any gyroscope was caused by Earth rotation. He always talked about how it was related to ether and in terms of that. So that's just his position in terms of my understanding of his entire, of his
Well,
position.
Yeah, it's like Sagnac is like a
well, how
foundational
come?
idea, basically.
Yeah, he
So
talked
in
about
the
the Sagnac effect
Common ground.
years before that movie was even filmed.
Exactly.
So in
And
so what
that
during
movie is composited of just like only their I guess outings to get footage. Like there's no extra effort that's placed into like wrapping up or supporting or making flat earthers look any bit good. There's none of that as a consideration. You're thinking that this is like some kind of fair and balanced approach. It isn't.
Yeah, I mean, B-ball, if someone took something you said, like maybe sometime when you're joking and you're like, oh, the Earth might be flat then. You know what I mean? If someone took that and clipped it out and made it look like, oh, B-ball thinks the Earth might be flat then. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty bad, dude. If they don't have the full
well,
context
that's what I
of
think.
who you are, what you were saying, what your actual position was, what you've been saying for years on your show. You know what I mean? If someone took some clip that had you saying that would be pretty deceptive, right?
So him saying if we took what we found and we put it out there, it would be bad. How is that? How is someone taking that out of context? Because that's literally what he said. How would you take that out of context? And then also in the conversations that I have, which are text conversations between him, between Rick Zimmerman, which is the one who actually did the test, and a bunch of other people from Globebusters. They're literally talking about this being exactly like the rotation of the Earth. Nowhere in there does it mention the heavenly energies or ether or anything. And this is while they were actually performing the test. So if you have some other conversation before that, before the movie ever came out, saying that the rotation of the Earth is equal to the movement of the heavenly energies or the ether, I'd be glad to see that.
Yeah, for years on Globebusters. That's what they were talking about. Bob was talking
Can
about
you
that for years.
cite it though? Can you cite like a particular recording with a timestamp to show where he's talking about it, or are you just saying that he talked about it?
Well, I followed their shows every week for years. I don't know if the Glowbusters episodes are still on that channel or if somebody saved them, but they're all in
This
there.
is
They're all there.
before or after TFE?
Way
I
before
mean, not
TFE.
TFE. Before, I'm sorry, not TFE. Before, after, Beyond the Curve.
Before, throughout the whole time of Glowbusters. I mean, you never listened to their shows, or did you listen to every one?
I haven't
didn't
heard
listen.
any of them. So if you can point me to an episode that he was talking about it, then I'd be interested to hearing it. I'm not going to go back and listen to all of the Glowbuster recordings.
Like every 6-hour episode that ran like honestly, like if you're not willing to like understand like what had occurred, then like try not to like people throw that guy's name around a lot, and I don't really like it. Sometimes when people say things, if they weren't there to have witnessed the amount of, I don't know, just time that was poured into it, I don't know. It's a little offensive, but whatever.
I'm not demeaning him or his work or his
People
life.
do, though, that's all.
He's yeah. I get not liking that. Like I totally respect that. But I'm just saying, I don't just say like, oh, I heard like they used to talk about it all the time, and then just not be able to pull up a single clip for it. Seems like a cop out.
So here's something from December 9th, 2017, from Bob Nodell. Okay, I'm going to read this. This comes from a conversation with him and all the people while they were testing it. Right? It says, "Good point, Rick. I guarantee you thought if we went public with our current findings, the claims that we debunked our own model would be rampant because we clearly detected rotation. Still, it is strange that they haven't hit us with it yet. Perhaps there is a weakness in the force. I would like to think there should be a legitimate way to interpret what we are seeing. If we fail, it just seems that there is something we have not considered. I agree about the MEMS mechanical gyroscope versus the FOG, which is I forget what it's called. Anyway, I always wonder just exactly which modern day mechanical gyroscope would be good enough for the ballers to accept that there is no drift and therefore there is no motion to the Earth. After all, Foucault allegedly had a gyro 175 years ago that was precise enough to measure drift and prove that the world was spinning, right? So that's just one piece of a long conversation.
Do you get how do you interpret that last line that you left off on? Like he's poking at basically the Foucault pendulum as your gyroscope.
What do you mean? How do I interpret it? I mean,
Do
you guys don't believe.
like
you guys
either
don't
are
believe.
you interpreting that as like him saying that the Earth's a ball?
Yeah,
or
he's trying.
You,
He's trying.
see,
Yes,
that's
he's
how you're
trying to poke
interpreting it.
fun.
But I interpret it
Yes,
because I understand the person that's not what he would have been implying. But if you want to make that case, go ahead and fucking fail. I guess. Go ahead.
I mean, I understand he's trying to poke fun of it. Yes, but we understand how the Foucault pendulum works. You guys don't believe that it works the way we describe it. So, I mean, of course. And there is more to this conversation. Also, I just can't. I got to find the rest of them. There's a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things. It's inherently problematic to, somebody who has passed on, to try to like potentially slander them or say things about them. I'm just saying that already has like inherent problematic
Oh, we're not.
components because you can't talk to him, call him up and say, in terms of that. Secondly, I don't know if all those Glowbusters videos are still up, like on that channel, or if people save them all. Like, are they saved in some archive somewhere? I thought at one point Jaren like made some website where all the old videos were saved or something. But then since he kind of fell off the path or whatever he's gone on, like I don't know, he deleted all his videos too because he's embarrassed and all of his positions are all conflicting and he's all kind of conflicted now. So I think he deleted his videos. So I don't know whether like all those original Glowbusters videos, like, are they around? Does anyone know if those
I
were
don't think. Why wouldn't they be? Aren't they still on the channel? Is it still the channel still up?
Well, I don't know. The channel's still up, but are all those videos? Because I thought at one point they were all removed.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, are those videos going back to 2016, for example?
I mean, if someone wants to go and check, I don't know.
I mean, dude, I don't have any like desire to like defend someone. I never met Bob. Like, I'm not defending him as I'm just saying, like, from my understanding of everything he said, he never thought that the gyroscopes indicated a rotating globe. He always he talked about ether. He talked about ether drift and the ether being the cause of it. I mean, dude, he was like kind of in a way sort of leading that discussion of the ether drift for all those years. So I mean, he wasn't some guy that was on the fence like, oh, maybe this gyroscope means we're on a big rotating ball. Like, I'm just saying that that's my understanding from his position. I mean, I did listen to all those Glowbuster shows back then, so I'm just saying he wasn't a guy that was sitting there like, I wonder if this gyroscope means we're on a big rotating globe. Like, he talked about the ether and the ether drift because he knew about the people that came before him and the whole history of ether and how it was taken over by Einstein and everything that went on, So, I mean, he knew about all that.
In some positions, maybe not yours. I was asking. Hello, mic check.
No, I hear you. I think B-Ball either lost connection or he left, but I thought he was going to respond to what I maybe said. But are you saying, what are you saying? All I was saying is that if there wasn't a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, if there wasn't one there, they would not let civilians go there, is all I was saying. If there wasn't one there. Meaning they wouldn't let people go skydive and go play around in the snow and stuff. That wouldn't be a thing if there wasn't a 24-hour sun there. That's all I was saying. I think it's pretty clear we live in a two-pole system. There's two massive rotations of stars. And the sun follows the same path as stars do in the south, like in those latitude lines. So it's not surprising there's a 24-hour sun there. Just like an electric field, there's two poles. It's not surprising. And in order to sell the whole world that we're on a globe and it actually being a flat plane, you'd have to have, well, I mean, the coordinates would have to match. Meaning, if you have that like stereographic projection of spherical coordinates with the two poles and the straight line at the equator, that would have to be what's on the ground for them to deceive everybody it's a sphere. There would have to be an overlap with the coordinates on the ground and the sky. And the sky has a spherical nature and the ground has a planar nature, and how those intersect. So it's not surprising.
Yeah, it sounded like you said that like nobody would go there if there wasn't a 24-hour sun there.
Yeah, what I was saying is that if the Earth was an A.E. Gleason's map and one sun circling the North Pole in concentric circles, if that's what the Earth was, and there was not a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, what I was saying is that the powers that be, if they wanted to hide that, would not allow civilians to even go at all. That's what I was saying. They wouldn't let them just go there and be like, "Oh, look at this! There's no 24-hour sun. Oh my God, they're lying to us. This is so easy to prove." Like, why would any criminal do that? That would be like the most obvious giveaway.
Well, why was there so much contention, do you think? Like,
well, I think that there's a weird way that the 24-hour sun footage was very limited for decades, like 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Like, as far as I know, the first footage that ever even existed of the sun there was in like 2014. 2015, which is right when like flat Earth started erupting. So there's a weird way that we had like limited access to that region. Because like in like if it was like 1993, you couldn't just go. I don't even think there were trips to Antarctica very easily that you could do back then, maybe in some specialized format, but you couldn't even really go at all. Like you couldn't just go skydiving there in 1993. And then there was no footage of it. So like I was alive in 1993. And if I was like, I want this footage of a 24-hour sun, you wouldn't have been able to, it didn't exist. So there's like a weird, like
My
limited
aunt went down there
access.
in '84. My aunt went in '84. Gio,
Yeah.
84.
So yeah, well, that's fine. I didn't say no one went. I said there wasn't trips that you could take that civilians could take easily. But if your grandmother went
Yeah,
and she didn't take a footage of the
Well,
sun,
that was
so no one took a
it was
footage
a
of the
trip
sun till
easily taken up.
2014. So no one took footage till 2014.
When were consumer cameras like readily available?
Well, the point is there was limited access to footage for civilians. That's the point I was
I had a
making. I didn't
Sony
say no.
Handycam in the 90s, so way
Yeah,
before
and this was
2014.
but not but not the 80s when Left Lane's grandmother went is the
Sure,
point.
but way before 20. What are you saying? What did you say, Gio? 2014 was the first time we saw the footage?
Yeah, that was the first footage. If anyone has anything earlier, I'm open to see that. But I don't, as far as I know, that was the first footage of that ever existed in 2014. After all these years in the advanced culture we live in, or whatever, all through the 2000s, 90s, 80s, 70s, no
Yeah,
footage.
so what?
It could be that the footage existed, but just not on YouTube.
Yeah,
Which is
like,
where
but like
you would
even then, like, why would that matter?
Oh, it was linked to a point I was making about that it seemed like there was very limited access to that region or limited access to footage from that region because I think you would ask something like
You asked
why.
what the content. He asked what the contention was. So that's why we're on. That's why you're on.
Oh yeah, okay. If you would ask yeah. So if there was limited access to footage of a 24-hour sun there, compared to the north, there was not limited access to footage. There's plenty of it. But in the south, either way you hack it, whether people were or were not going, as far as I know, there's no video before 2014 that even exists today. And yeah, maybe it's not on YouTube. Maybe it's somewhere in the Congress archives or something. If someone could find that, if anyone could find it, you could post it on anywhere or even just get the raw video. I would be open to seeing that of any video before 2014. But if there was no video until 2014, and if around that same time, humanity started coming to the awareness that we're not on a sphere, that there's no curvature, there's no motion to the earth, et cetera, like the conversation got reignited. It never really died, but it got shut down ever since World War II, it seems. And then they showed us pictures of going to the moon or whatever, and people thought that was all real. So I'm just saying, like, there wasn't, the shape of the earth discussion really started erupting, ironically, around that same time. And then going along with that, the anyone who thought the earth was not a sphere was put into this flat earther category, which is somewhat understandable because humanity had always thought the earth was planar and stationary before the globe thing came along. So I mean, it's understandable. Oh, it's not a globe, then what is it? Oh, it's what we originally thought it was, a flat plane. But nonetheless, like, and then in the media, like when you looked up flat earth, I know when I looked up flat earth in 2004, I came across the Flat Earth Society website and there's the AE map. So in all of the media that you could have had access to, let's just move forward to 2014, 15, it was AE Gleasons everywhere for the most part. When you looked up flat earth, that was it's like that was like kind of it was like in the media that was portrayed as the flat earth. That was it. That was the flat earth. That was the way it was kind of portrayed in the media and in the writings and stuff that were kind of allowed to be on the internet. So it's not surprising that a
And
lot
it was
of people,
portrayed that way by Mark Sargent too.
so it's not surprising, yeah, by various YouTubers who latched onto something they didn't have proof for. So it's not surprising that when people were like, "Oh, we're not on a globe, we're on a flat Earth," and then that map or that concept is being put in everyone's faces, that some people are going to latch onto it. Now, people who did latch onto it, like unless they have proof of it, like the distances in the south or something, then they're just going on a belief system. I mean, the flat part is different because you can observe that and then plane surveying and so on. But in terms of that being the map, anyone who latched onto that is just a belief, unless they've measured
What does that
distances in
mean?
the
Sorry.
south. Yeah, unless they've measured distances in the south to be greater, unless they've actually mapped the Earth, unless they've actually done something to verify that map is true, they're just jumping on another belief system.
Why are you saying just a belief or just belief system? You're acting like that inherently makes it unjustified. I don't take it to mean that. So I'm asking why.
Well, it would be a belief system because if you have observations or other components that lead you that the Earth is planar and stationary, that's one thing. But that Gleason's AE map is a particular type of map and a particular type of layout. And even if you're going to go with like what Gleason claimed, like the way that the perpetual darkness in the south, the sun always circling Polaris in concentric circles, that would be a belief system. Because unless you have proof of that, unless somebody actually proved that's the case, then they would just be essentially blindly believing the Gleason's map is what the map is.
But like blindly believing something isn't like, to say someone believes something doesn't necessarily mean they're blindly believing it. Belief just means like to assert something is true.
It depends
Or like,
on,
or to hold the position at least. That's all belief means. So like when you're just like, oh, it's just a belief system. It's like, well, I hold that, genetics is a thing, and we can I assert all these things based on the evidence provided. So like I don't understand what it means to say, oh, that's just a belief or a belief system because it's everything is. It just, I don't know.
okay, well, that would get into a semantic discussion. So the semantic discussion, because the word belief can actually have multiple meanings, just like other words can have that too. So one of the
I'm literally asking what you mean.
Please don't interrupt. I am telling you what I mean. Do you care not to interrupt and hear, or do you want to just outburst? Okay, I was in the middle of exactly describing that. So one of the definitions of belief is a state or habit of mind in which trust or confidence is placed in some person or thing. That would be the one I was talking about, a blind belief. So in that case, it is a trust or confidence. So people were placing trust or confidence, for example, that the A.E. Gleason's map was the map. They didn't have proof for it. They didn't have any measurements of it. They didn't measure the southern continents. They didn't check a 24-hour sun. They didn't do any of that. They just had trust or confidence placed in the AE map. That's the type of belief I was referring to. Another definition of belief, something that is accepted, considered to be true, or held as an opinion. That one's a little bit different. That's the one you were describing. Like, I believe I had a cheeseburger for lunch yesterday. Well, they're not, when someone says that, they're not saying like they have some faith or confidence that they had a hamburger. They're saying, yes, or a cheeseburger. Yes, I had a cheeseburger. They're stating that like, that's what I think is true. So those are the two definitions of belief, and they're slightly different. One of them is placing trust or confidence in something that you don't really know is true. You're just kind of having, a state or habit of mind in which trust or confidence is placed in some person or thing. That's different than something you think is true, which is another usage of the word belief.
No, in the first definition you gave, you're saying trust or confidence, right? So that's just saying the amount that you're putting it forward as that it's true. To say like you can have trust, like I believe this person is the first definition that you gave, and then a belief that you hold is the second definition. They're both nouns, but one is like believe. I have belief in them as trust or confidence, right? And then the second is saying I have a belief.
Yeah, they're different usages. Like when someone says they believe in God, but they don't have any proof of it, they're having a blind faith that there's a God based on some reasons. That's different than, somebody having using the word belief, like just saying like I think it's, that something is true.
But they're doing the same thing, but there's a difference of justification that you're inserting that I don't really like. To say that you're not like you don't have evidence for it is putting an assumption on their behalf, because there's a lot of people that say I believe in God and I have witnessed evidence myself, which like they obviously believe it's the case, right?
Okay, let's go this route. Do you know the AE map has these grand distances between the southern continents?
Wait, yeah.
Okay, there's far longer distances in the southern continents than the globe model or a dual pole planar Earth model. The only one that stands out is the vast distances between the southern continents. Okay, so anyone who is asserting a Gleason's or AE map or saying they believed it to be true, did any of them measure those distances? Did even one of them measure the distances? Because if the answer is no, then they would have a faith or a belief using that form of the word belief, or a faith that Gleason's map might be what the Earth is, and then they would just be in a belief system, which is what I originally was bringing up. If they haven't measured that, they do not know that that's what the actual Earth is. They just latched onto it and went with it for whatever reason, whether you call that faith or belief, or whether you call it, I mean, you could use the word blind belief, because if they're going in blind, meaning that the one hallmark of that model is the grand distances in the south, and the 24-hour sun question, which is why this conversation was brought up originally. They also didn't have proof of that, whether there wasn't a 24-hour sun. So anyone saying that it was the Gleason's map and that there was no 24-hour sun, what were they operating off of? Faith, blind belief, hope, just being programmed? Like, what were they going off of? What word would you use if you don't like the word believed?
Like they no, but I'm not saying that they don't believe it. I'm saying they believe it, right? But the threshold by which they accept claims may not be the highest, depending on who they're hearing it from. That's all I really hear there. For me, when someone says faith, I take it initially to mean like the Hebrews definition of, like, the definition from the book Hebrews, as in assurance in things to come, belief in things unseen, I believe, or something along those lines. Which to me sounds like asserting something is true in spite of evidence, regardless of whether or not you can evidence it. It is true. That's faith. But to say you believe something just has its own. It's a different thing. And in these spheres, I hear people, like, especially like Christians, talking to atheists about things, in regards of, like, oh, you just believe that, like, you don't have knowledge. And it just, that's more of a semantic dispute than anything of actual meaning, because when you get into a conversation with someone and they're able to say, here, I have this evidence for the globe, are you going to engage with it in good faith and actually try to address the evidence, or are you just going to hand wave it? And we all know how that goes.
So one of the definitions of faith I'm looking up here is, this is on what Merriam-Webster, is firm belief in something for which there is no proof. So that has the word belief in it again. Firm belief in something in which there is no proof.
Exactly. So, but you were just saying belief, like they just believe it.
Yeah, just believing it would be you don't have proof for something. Just believing it
I
would
didn't
mean
hear.
you don't have
Sorry,
proof
I
for
wasn't
something. Just believing it is implied that you don't have proof for something. You're just believing it.
That's just not the case, though, because when you have evidence for things, you still believe them. It doesn't become something else.
Got proof for a globe?
Of course, I've shown it to you many times.
Proof. What's your proof?
Oh, well, with that emphasis, I would
This is
like
just
to request. I would like to request you to define the way you're using proof.
Well, hold on, Rob. If you want to shift it into like him, coming to why he has faith in the globe model, you can do that.
I was just
No, wait. Well,
busting
excuse me, Gio. That's quite unkind of you to ascribe faith to me. I'm very anti-faith. Faith can be used for any position at any time. That's not good. I say to base your position on evidence and have a working model on explaining things as best as you can, and also conversing with other people, because there may be things that your model can't account for.
Hey,
Is
Rich,
evidence?
wouldn't you have to see it to believe it? Like, otherwise, it's got to be faith. It's got to be put into that
No,
basket
I don't agree with
because
that.
you haven't seen it, and all you're relying on is like imageries coming, like being piped down to you through a screen, casted by authorities.
No, I disagree. I have a reasonable amount of confidence that Asia as a continent exists.
That's faith, bro.
Without
a reasonable amount.
No, see this. See how I said this is basically just a
Said
semantic
reasonable.
dispute now. Like you're just
Yeah,
All
actually,
of
I
this
oh,
wouldn't
is
what I
a
have faith. I
distraction.
defined how I use faith. So if you guys just want to keep saying I have faith, then you can be wrong all you like. But I have evidence that China exists. Faith
Yeah,
is
you
belief in things unseen, right? As in things that are not evidenced.
Yeah, but people
things that
think
are not evident.
they have evidence that God exists because of the Bible. That doesn't mean they
Yeah,
don't have faith.
they're allowed to think that.
Yeah, they have evidence, but evidence doesn't lead to
Yeah.
absolute proof all the time or confirmation. It could just lead to having faith or trust that it could be true because the evidence could lead to that, but you don't know for sure. And the thing I was saying originally, because we're talking about the 24-hour sun, the AE map. If you guys want to shift the combo a little bit, that's fine. The last thing I was going to say on that, or what I was going to say and how it's linked to this, is that okay, people generally believed the globe Earth. There wasn't that much flat Earth discussion. I mean, there was before World War II, and we could go back into the history, but I'm saying since World War II, let's say, and then the landing on the moon thing, most people, like the flat Earth conversation was a very low role in the world. Now there were still like traditional peoples in other parts of the world that were not taught the globe that maybe still had that, etc., or people in the hills of China that may have had their not believe in a globe, whatever. But the point is that in 2014, 2015, obviously the shape of the Earth discussion started really erupting, quite intensely. And the thing about the Gleasons, the AE map, and the 24-hour sun thing, this was just the last part of what I was going to say from before, is that was like presented to people, meaning it was on the internet, it was in the media, the Gleasons map, it was portrayed as like the flat Earth. Now, whether that's a false flat Earth or a real flat Earth, either way, it was portrayed as the flat Earth. So when a lot of people were starting to question, like, I don't think we're on a globe, they're doing long distance observations, they're checking into a lot of things, and so on, and coming to a lot of skepticism or to a conclusion within themselves that the Earth is not a sphere. That A.E. Gleason's map was like really sold to people as a thing to latch onto. Now, the people who did latch onto it, I would suggest that they were doing that out of faith, or the way I was using the word belief, because I don't know of anyone to this day that actually has any confirmation that AE map, like actual measurements in the southern oceans or things to that degree, that would actually confirm it. Therefore, whether you want to call it a faith or a belief, whatever the terminology, the semantics of that, they have some kind of those who would attach to that had some kind of an attachment to it, even though they really didn't have proof of it. And to this day, there still might be people that refer themselves as a flat earther who don't have proof of that map, who still portray it, or who criticize other maps or layouts, even though they still don't have proof for that. So when you were asking before, like, what was the contention? Well, the contention was that humanity started realizing we're not on a sphere, that A.E. Gleason's map was really promulgated very strongly. And so some people latched onto it. And then in addition, there wasn't any good footage of a 24-hour sun, until 2014, 15. And then even those first few videos were not really as good as the ones that came later. And so when you're asking what the contention was, well, the contention was people were coming to the conclusion that we're not on a sphere, that A.E. Gleason's map was promulgated. So some people were latching onto it or thinking, oh, this could be it. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is what the Earth is. And then the lack of a 24-hour sun is what's implied in that. And therefore, that's why the contention was there. But there could certainly be the case that the globe is false and the Gleason's AE map is false, and we're on a stationary plane. And, so I mean, that was originally why you asked what was the contention. That was
No,
part
that
of
was
what the
Jeremy.
contention was.
Jeremy asked you, so I hope you heard that.
He was repeating what you had asked originally. And if you
No,
want
I
to
wasn't
clarify
asking
what
what
you
the
asked.
like. I think what I was more so asking was, what's the point of you saying it's just a belief? And you've now gone on to describe how you believe belief to also mean the same thing as faith. If you say just belief, I take it belief again to mean that you assert something is true, and I take faith to believe something is true in spite of evidence. Not taking evidence into account, I only have what I believe is the case. And you can't sway anyone from that position because they're not there to evaluate evidence. They're not there to come to the truth. What they're there for is to hold their position and defend it as much as they would like to.
Okay, well, in relation to the AE map, like this is dictionary.com for the word belief. One of the definitions here is confidence, faith, trust. So if we're using the English language, we have to obviously use the words, and then if needed, we have to define what we mean by that word. And the best we can go off is what these dictionaries seem to imply, other than if we just make up other definitions and we just make them up. But if we're not going to make them up, we're going to go off some kind of collective agreement. On this one, this definition is confidence, faith, trust. So when I say that somebody was just believing in the Gleason's map, that is what I'm referring to. Maybe they had confidence because maybe they had, for some reason, they thought that Gleason did something good, or maybe they had some kind of confidence. The word faith, which we were just talking about, faith in something they don't have proof for, or trust. Maybe they had trust in that Gleason was an honest man and mapped the earth, or something to that effect. So when I say just belief, that's what I'm referring to. They have just a confidence, a faith, a trust, whatever it may be, in that Gleason's AE map, and then maybe telling other people, oh, this is what it is, and this is the truth. And then if some of them got into it like, and there's no 24-hour sun, I know it, I really think there isn't, even though they haven't been there, they didn't confirm it, and then they didn't confirm the AE map either. So that's why I said they had just a belief in that. And unless somebody to this day has confirmed that AE map, they would have something that would not be just a belief. But if they had just a belief, then that doesn't mean it's true, and that can be wiped off the table when it's false very quickly. And just because some people attach to it doesn't really mean anything other than them having confidence, faith, and trust in something they were something that was put in front of them, and something that they didn't actually confirm or validate.
We're
Okay,
doing meta
what is-
circles, right? Gio's explained this like 5 times. It's not hard. They didn't validate the map. Therefore, if the map's disproven, what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything.
Right. It just means that some people had some faith and confidence in something that they saw on the internet one day. That's about it.
All I said was I've said where I was coming from quite a few times, just to make sure we were clear. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
but
say
you
it
want to
again.
take it
Don't
into a
worry.
definition game, which is like
Well,
he's already
just
explained what he means by it 5 times.
No, I was saying how I use the word, which is literally what he said we ought do because we're talking. So I don't know what you're getting mad at. Now I'd like to
Because
know
he had to explain it 5 times.
Well, yeah, I don't want to hear it again either. Don't get me wrong. What allows you to go over the threshold of simple belief, just belief, to not just belief, and that there's justified confidence in the position? Gio.
It's just so meta, bro.
It's not
This
meta.
is semantical, but you're
No, it's not semantics. It's philosophy, like epistemology.
Yeah, I don't think this is hard for any of us to understand. Going out there and physically verifying that the map is true, it's pretty simple what Gio's saying.
Yeah, I know, but that's not. I don't simply know something because I go out and see it with my own eyes. Seeing it with my own eyes is a good way to confirm something, usually. But I can see something with my own eyes and still be wrong about what I'm seeing.
You gotta bring up Germany 52 deck.
So that's why I think that like repeatable, demonstrable.
Well, here would be a difference. If we're talking about like
I just want to finish up real quick. I think that repetitive, demonstrable evidence is a very good way to be able to verify whether or not someone is being truthful in their claim. Now, there's obviously that's the ideal. It's not necessarily the case that you have that, especially if like we're trying to figure out if this person has murdered someone. Obviously, like you can't just say that we have to repeatedly demonstrate it, but we say we know things without having seen it with our own eyes routinely, or we act as though we do know. So,
I mean, you guys don't even know what knowing means, so I don't know where you go with this one.
okay, nobody can complain about me being semantic when Jeremy just said that.
I just elbow said the 52 deck, so.
All right. Well, to respond to what Rich you had asked about, like where would it cross the line from just a belief into something more than just a belief, depending on again how we use the semantics, because the word belief does have different ways that it's used, different inflections. I mean, another one here, a definition: confidence in the truth or existence of something not immediately susceptible to rigorous proof. That would also fit maybe what some people were doing with the Gleasons or AE map. They had the confidence they thought that it was true. They had confidence in the truth of it, but it was not susceptible to rigorous proof. So if someone were to say, well, that was just a belief, then it means that they don't have anything concrete. Now, if somebody went out into the southern oceans and measured the distances, let's say, like just hypothetically, they went out there and they actually tangibly measured the distances of the southern continents, That would be different. Yeah, at that point, if they were to measure those distances, and let's say they even mapped the whole Earth and they mapped it like the Gleason's AE map themselves independently, that would be something stronger than maybe just a belief. But if they just saw it on the internet one day and then did some long distance observations and then just started saying, "Oh, that's the map," then that would be more in the category of just a belief. Like maybe if they've seen things or confirmed that the Earth doesn't have curvature, that's one thing. But that map, that Gleason's map, being what the actual layout is, that's why I was saying the word just belief. Because as far as I know, no one who believes that map or purports it to be true has actually validated it's true. And some of them are on the internet saying this is it, whatever. They're making phone apps and they're doing all kinds of things, promulgating it as being the case. Like they're not saying, well, it could be, I'm not sure yet. Some of them are actually saying it is. Maybe Jeranism fell into that trap where he clinged his belief system and had faith in it. And then when he found out he got duped by it, he just freaked out and went back to the globe instead of actually continuing on the path of truth and actually sorting all the evidence. Like Jaren doesn't have any proof of curvature, for example. He doesn't have any proof of motion. He's just going back to his previous belief system that he didn't have any validation for, the globe Earth, after he leaped onto this Gleason's AE map one that he also didn't have proof for. It's just a faith and belief lily padding from one to the other.
Okay, so out of all of that, I took that physical verification by an individual is the way that you determine whether or not something is just a belief.
Well, yeah, if you have proof, I mean, that's why the word proof, one of the definitions is to establish something is true. So if you have proof and you've established something to be true, then yes, that would go beyond just a belief. You know, for example,
yeah, obviously, like the root of my question is asking, how do you establish something is true?
Well, I mean, to go to the old, like, you know, am I a man or a woman? Like, I know it's kind of going to that level, but I'm just saying, like, okay,
What?
I am a man. I have a penis. I don't have a uterus. Like, there's ways I can prove that I'm a man to where I'm not just believing I'm a man. I don't just have faith or belief that I'm a man. I do have something very concrete, you know, to confirm that. And even that, you know, people could try to debate that or do whatever. But that would be different than just a belief. However, if somebody says, oh, I think, I'll make one up. If somebody says Barack Obama's a woman or whatever, or even the Michelle Obama, a lot of people think that's a man or whatever. But does anyone really have proof of that? Well, no. Like they haven't seen a penis, they haven't checked a uterus, they haven't done that on Michelle Obama. So I would say they have belief or a faith that Michelle Obama might be a man or whatever. Or maybe they have some evidences they think lead to that, but it would be more in the faith and belief category. Whereas for someone like ourselves, we can check our anatomy and it goes beyond just the belief. So I mean,
that was a really long yes.
What's the name of that?
I'm trying to root out if there's any other way other than your personal verification of something existing, like your penis, right? Is there any other way that you can know something is true?
I think so, but it would go more to the spiritual and metaphysical. Like I think we're all psychic beings and we can actually know things that are true without proof, but that's going more to the metaphysical. Like for example, let's say you have a friend. Well, here's what I'm saying. We don't have to take the combo this way because it goes in another category. Like it's not tangibility, it's something different, but meaning metaphysics and spirituality. But like I do think it's possible. Like let's say you have a friend and his girl is cheating on him. You might have no proof that she is cheating. You don't have any text messages, you don't have any pictures, you have nothing, but you could know that she's cheating. And that we know that happens. The guy will say, "Hey man, I think your girl's cheating on you," and the guy could be right. Now, does that mean he's like a psychic and he could go charge money for being a psychic? Maybe, maybe not. But it could be that he has some like. I mean, anyways, that goes in another category. I think we're all psychic beings. Ultimately, we're all interconnected through the ether. I think we can know things even without the tangibility. Now, whether you can prove that to someone else is another question because they would have to also have that psychic ability to tune into that truth. So if you're asking, are there other ways to know truth than just the tangible measurements? Yes, I do think that is possible to have truth just through a more metaphysical level of reality. But again, that's not going to be very easy to prove to someone unless they also have that metaphysical capacity. Like maybe a second friend says, "Hey man, yeah, your girl's cheating on you. I think it's true too." And they're both right and both of them have no proof. That would be an example of that.
Okay. Why don't we take it to something a bit more simple? Like if I were to say, like, do you know that you have a brain?
I mean, what do you think no means?
have reached a particular threshold of confidence that something is a fact or is true.
Rich, let
I
me
mean,
ask.
yeah, that's just terrible. That's
Do
a
you
terrible
know
thing. Like,
you're not
I have a
AI?
proof.
Jeremy a question. He didn't respond, and it's going
No,
into
I
a
asked
different
you.
topic.
I asked you a question.
What is your
This
question?
whole thing is a bait. Like, it has nothing to do
What
with
is a
Gio's
bait?
original point.
Well, it's
The
Rich Evans.
conversation,
So,
man.
I mean, what are you expecting? If you know this guy.
That's not very nice
What was
of
your
you.
question, though?
I asked, do you know that you have a brain?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. You don't experience your brain. You haven't
Yeah, I
felt
do.
and touched your brain. What?
It's in my head.
What?
Yeah, I feel it all the time. Yeah, absolutely.
How do you? Well, that's very strange to me. How do you
You don't
feel
feel
your
your
brain?
brain? You don't
No,
feel your brain?
no.
Okay.
Sometimes
Maybe you
I
don't
might
have
feel
one.
it rattle around in there, but the
Yeah.
walls are far
That's
enough
it.
away.
That's it. Shake your head back and forth to the left and right real fast, and
Yeah, I mean, it's
you're good.
operating my whole body. I'm very aware of it. Now, I haven't cut my head open though to see it tangibly, though. So you could say it's more
Would
of
an
a.
MRI or a CAT scan count?
Okay, there you
That's
go.
the question, Jeremy. That's
Yeah.
literally the question. Are you willing to take this representation on a screen as the case? That's what I'm asking.
All right. Well, my proof that I have a brain is that my body functions. I've never seen anything that would indicate a body can function without a brain. I can feel my brain. I've actually had of mild concussions in my life, nothing like too major, but I have had some mild concussions. My brain is functioning. I mean, I can feel it. I'm using it every day to function. It's like saying if you're driving a car, do you know it has an engine?
Well, no, you can open the hood and look at the engine, right?
You can do an
The
MRI
the
and
mo-
see.
like the to say that here's this screen from the MRI machine and you can see this blob in your head. It's like, oh, well, I know I'm not actually looking inside of my head right now, but this seems like an accurate representation of what most probably is going on in there. So I know I have a brain, even when like you are. So I'm obviously pointing out that firsthand experience of an object being a like the threshold that changes something from just a belief to knowledge isn't how anyone here operates. We will accept
Well, you're,
things as true without having that exact level of demonstration.
except we're leaving out the nuance that it's based on firsthand knowledge of every head we cut open, someone having a brain, right?
How can it be firsthand knowledge of someone else doing something?
What do you mean? Every case we look at, right? If you were to cut open every head we've looked into has had a brain, right? So we understand that we have brains, right? That's a
Well,
different nuance than anything you can claim about the globe.
that's just asserting it's the case, right? Like no one has ever cut my head open. So we're saying probabilistically, Rich Evans being a human, just like every other human that has ever existed, when we cut it open, it's not just going to be hot air that rushes out, right? So
Yeah, so we have a confidence level based on firsthand knowledge. What I'm saying is you
exactly
can't compare that. You can't compare that to anything on the globe, though, right? You've never shown
what
anyone the Earth curve. You've never shown anyone the AE map in the South. You've never shown any of that. So none of that is the same nuance.
Right. The
well, I
one
mean,
thing we all
people
can
are shown
confirm is that
photos from space, but
that's a faith again, though. You're having faith in their photos. The one thing we all can confirm is that the Earth is observably planar and not in motion. That's what we all experience every day. So that's the one thing we can
if
all.
Earth is planar, why, as a camera's lowered over Lake Minnewanka, would the amount that the other shore increase in obstruction greatly, way above
I
the
mean,
height of the waves of the water?
can we end the topic this started on though, which is that Geo simply saying none of those guys verified a AE map? Like that's a
Sure.
to understand, right?
I mean, obviously not,
Can
because
we at
it's
least
not
get
true.
past that part?
Yeah, we will all agree that the AE map is not an accurate representation of reality.
That's not what he's saying, though. He's talking about whether anyone has confirmed it.
Yeah, and I'm
Has
saying
any-
obviously no one's confirmed it because it's not the case.
And nobody has
Okay, so
confirmed
that was
either.
Gio's point though, was these guys didn't confirm it and they were holding on to that map.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then we went through the whole conversation. We talked about how independent firsthand observation of something isn't the only way that you can come to know something. And I'm happy with us being there. So when Gio then claimed that Earth was planar, and we all know it is such, I brought up evidence that shows that as cameras lowered over, looking over the water of Lake Minnewanka, the water appears to rise and obstruct nearly 2 meters of the opposing shore.
Okay, well, we can shift to that if you want, but the thing is that you have an interpretation of what that might be based on the observation. I may have a different interpretation of that. In the same way that when we see too far, some people are going to interpret that the Earth is planar. Other people are going to interpret that, well, no, actually we're on a globe and there's refraction. So explanations are a dime a dozen. You may have a different explanation than I do based on that. So we could go into that if we want, but just to finish the AE map thing, we were talking about the contention of a 24-hour sun, and the kind of interesting, just to pull it full circle with that, is that if some people are saying the Earth is planar and not in motion, that's one claim. That's one thing, that it's planar and not in motion. That's one thing. But if people were saying it's planar and not in motion, and it's this Gleason's AE map that they haven't confirmed, and there's no 24-hour sun in the south, for those who did say that, who made videos or who said that, the thing about because I think this had first got brought up because B-Ball was saying that Will Duffy's getting closer to releasing a documentary on their YouTuber trip to Antarctica. So the whole question of the contention of that. Well, when you break down what the contention is, we just went through it all. It's a contention of some people who put a faith or a belief in the wording I was using, in the way of belief. They put a faith and belief that Gleason was correct, essentially, or that AE map type of projection was correct. So what really is the contention? Some people who was putting faith in something, and they don't even represent all planar stationary Earth folks? You know what I mean? So it's like Will Duffy or anyone trying to frame it like, oh, that's the flat Earth, and then we saw the 24-hour sun, therefore the Earth isn't flat, it is a globe now, is just faulty on multiple levels. Because what really is in contention? We've gotten to the bottom of it. It's some people who put faith and belief in something they saw on the internet. And when I say saw on the internet, because they probably saw that Gleason's map the first time on the internet. Maybe they ordered a poster and put it on their wall, but they literally saw that. So whatever Will Duffy was doing, if anything, he was just going after a limited number of people's faith or belief, along with maybe other kind of media programming that's the flat Earth, and trying to link it all together. So what did Will Duffy do? He just confronted some people's faith, a few people that put faith in a model that they didn't, or map and model that they'd never confirmed.
It wasn't
Doesn't
really
go very
just some
far.
people, though. It was the main flat Earth map and model. Would you deny that?
Yeah, but can I just point out too that most of the people before they even went, if he had just polled the community, most people in here were saying that what the sun does in the sky would not dictate the ground anyways. So
Yeah, that's what people were saying, and now they're saying you can look at the sky to dictate the ground. Just because there's contradictions in people's worldviews, that doesn't really matter. The broader point being,
who's
most
saying
flat
that?
Earth,
The Celtio guys?
yeah, most people in flat Earth for as long as I've been around, which was 2018 or 2019, adopted some variation of the AE map. They would say, "Oh, I don't think it's 100% correct, but this is basically what it was." So it wasn't just some people, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, but based on what Gio was saying, they were just talking out their ass. They didn't really verify it themselves.
I would say I didn't say those words at all. I said faith and belief. But Oscar, I hear you that it was obviously discussed, but I don't agree that it was okay. If you went through, let's say in 2017 or 2018 or something like that, if you would have gone to every single flat earther, as it were, or somebody who referred to themselves as flat earther or anything to that extent, what really would the percentages have been? See, I would say it might break down to okay, maybe 20%. I'm just totally winging this off the top of my head. I would say that maybe, tell me if you agree or disagree, that maybe 20%, if you had polled every single person in 2018, let's say, 20% might have said, yes, I really think it's the Gleason's map. I don't have 100% proof of it, but I really think that's it, or something close to it. And then maybe another like 50% might have been like, I don't have a map or model. I'm not claiming that. I don't click to, I don't claim any map. And then whatever other percent might have said, they don't know at all, or however that would break down. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how many would have really asserted 100% that it was that map? Because it seemed like a lot of people were using it like as a blueprint or as like a possible layout. You see what I'm saying? So, how many really asserted that they thought 100% that was it?
I don't think they would have said 100% this is 100% correct. But I think like more than 90%, close to 100% than 90% would have said this is basically the layout. Like, more or less, it's north centered, the sun circles around the north, there's an ice wall on the outside, so on and so forth. It's basically the A.E. Gleason, although most people wouldn't say this is 100% correct, but like they would have subscribed to that like much more than like if you would have said dual pole, it would have been like, what the fuck are you talking about?
All right, well then let me ask you this and link to that. So what about the idea that the globe is false and is a psyop of sorts, and that the Gleason's AE map is also a psyop? It's just the flat Earth version of the false of a psyop, and that the real Earth would be the third thing of what the actual Earth is. Like what? Because if that's the case, then why ping it on flat earthers? Like, even if what you're saying, like just taking that on face value, let's just say, I don't think it is 90%, but let's just say it was, because a lot of people never claimed any maps or models and so on. But nonetheless, like even if let's just take what you said, even if it was 90%, if all of humanity or the bulk of humanity got psyoped and deceived by the globe, from what I'm putting forth, just from this, if you want to call it hypothetical, it's fine, just to leave it neutral. And then if people started going to flat Earth, and then some flat earthers got psyoped by a second psyop, it's just the flat earther version of psyop instead of the globe earther, but that the Earth actually is, the third thing, then what is the problem with that, I guess? Because if everyone's been psyoped by the globe, and then some flat earthers were psyoped by the A.E. Gleason's map, if that's the case, then why is there this urge to try to like falsify all of flat Earth just because some flat earthers got psyoped by a false flat Earth?
Well, I don't think there's a problem with it. I think if the Earth is flat, it basically has to be something along those lines, because it can't be the Gleason map, in my personal opinion. And so it would have to be, it is a psyop or something like that, and it's like a double whoopty they pulled on folks by introducing the Gleason and all of that stuff whenever they did 2012 and 2014. So I don't see a problem in it. My only objection was that you seem to be downplaying it, like, oh, it's just no big deal, just like some flat earther, just a few people subscribe to it. When I'm like very confident it was the vast majority of all flat earthers, all flat earth content.
That's
Say what?
That's fallacious.
What's fallacious?
You're saying because the majority believes something, therefore.
It's based on experience, man. It's experience. We've all been here.
Yeah, I'm not saying because the majority of people believe it that means anything. I'm just saying, I'm just negating what Gio's saying, acting as if it's not. Like it's just like it's just a handful of flat earthers believe that. When like, in my personal experience, the vast majority of all flat earthers essentially subscribe to Eddie Gleason myth.
All right, but just to clarify,
there's a mass majority of flat earthers that believe in the ether. Doesn't mean that that's the truth, and everybody's therefore the ether gets disproven, which hasn't even been proven. Therefore, everything that flat earthers did is wrong. It's wrong.
No, that
yeah, and just
doesn't
to
negate the point he's making.
Can I clarify my position? I never said it was just a handful. I never said that word at all. And I agree with you, Osco. There were a lot of people that were considering it or looking at it. It was kind of like, it's been like kind of the symbol in a way of like flat earther, like that word flat earther, and then that map was linked together. I never said it was a handful. If I were to break it down, like it was probably like maybe like I was saying, maybe like 20% really thought it was the AE map. Let's say another 30% were like, oh, it could be, or it could be something like that, or maybe the layout in the north, could be like that, or the continents could generally be laid out. So it's like maybe 20% thought it was for sure. Maybe 30% were like, maybe it's called that even 40%, maybe even 50. So let's say 50% thought that it could have been, 20% thought it was, and then you have the last 30%, which would have been like, I don't have a map or model. I don't claim any map or models. Would you agree it's a breakdown something like that?
No, I mean I don't agree at all.
Oh,
But I mean,
you're wrong.
I could be wrong. But what I'm saying, it's
I would agree.
basically 70. That
Oscar,
would be like
90,
70%.
90+%.
That would be like 70% thought it like were somewhat associated with the Gleasons, and then 30% were not at all.
90 plus.
Yeah, I think it's 90 plus, close to 100% were associated. That's not saying that they're saying it's 100% accurate, the Gleason, but they were subscribing, broadly speaking, to the north-centered AE Gleason with the sun and moon and stars going around the north, ice wall, dome, etc. I mean,
Does anyone else who's been in this for years? I don't know, Oscar. When did you first get into all this?
It was the end of 2018, beginning of 2019.
Okay, well, anyone else who's been around since like around that time or earlier, either agree or disagree with what's being said?
I disagree.
I agree with Oscar.
It also like this urge that the Globe folks seem to have of like, oh, like we need to link you all to the AE map. Like that's all just smoke and mirrors because the Earth like is what it is no matter what. And if the truth is that we got psyoped by the fake globe, well, then you're already in the wrong position. And then if some flat earthers got psyoped by a false, Gleason's map, like what does that
That's
really
not
do?
an assertion,
What does that
though.
do for you? What does that do for you? Like you have like a tick almost.
It's not a doing, though.
I need to attach you to that to then try to falsify that the Earth is planar.
Nobody's doing that.
No, you're trying to use the AE
Nobody's doing that.
Oh, can I finish speaking? You're trying to use
but you're misaligning. Nobody is saying the things that you're saying, Gio.
Well, I'm going to finish speaking, and then you can respond whatever you want to say. I am giving a generalized thing that in this conversation, there's this tension that some of the Globe folks or those who are championing that side are trying to link everyone to an AE map to try to then claim that all of Flat Earth is false. Is that what your tick is? Like that's what your hope is to try to do?
No, 90% is not all. That's you just asked a question. He just gave an answer. No one's attacking. No one's generalizing. It's just the impression of what we see.
Oscar answer?
It was my experience. It was my experience that well over 90% of the flat earthers that I've interacted with laid claim to the Gleason /AE style map. Period. That's my experience. I'm not attacking anyone for it. I'm not making any implications about it. That's my experience, and I think that's what Oscar's saying as well.
Who specifically can you explain at least one or two that actually said that this is the map?
I can.
Who specifically? Because I've always heard that we don't have a map.
Can we get out of this Wii game? It's only each individual.
Why are you interrupting, bro? Jeez, bro.
There is no we. It's just individuals. No one's representing a we here.
Yeah, well, regardless of, they're saying we as in 90% of flat earthers. So yes, they are saying we. So can you specify
today, etc.?
Austin Witch has always said they don't have a map. You use it as an example.
Nathan Oakley, Eric Dubay, Mark Sargent, Dirk Hill.
Nathan Oakley specifically says they don't have a model. They don't have
another thing in the background.
Yeah, there's a reason why you don't have a model. Because we know why you don't have a model. We know.
The model is you being here every day.
Oh, my bad. Hey, Gio, my bad. I know we were in the middle of a conversation, but I had a phone call I had to take. So
that's all right. Yeah, you popped out. I figured something like that. No worries.
Hey, Gio, can I get in here for just a second? Just based on what I've seen history, you were asking for opinions for people. I've been doing this since 2016, I think, because that's when I first met up with, or first was made aware of Jeranism's existence. The way it started out, at least with my recollection, is that they all initially went towards the AE map, and then eventually, after a while, they started to distance themselves away from that map. Initially, it was a very, very high percentage. Nowadays, I don't believe that they would even acknowledge that they ever held that position. I think that has changed throughout the years.
There's a few that still try and justify it.
Well, people want a replacement in general. So like as humanity, like from the view that we're not on a sphere and that's false, if people are on that journey of either questioning it or whatever it may be, there is like a human instinct that you want a replacement. You want to be like, okay, if it's not this globe, then what is it? Oh, it must be this thing, this Gleason's map. It looks like a map. It looks, it has some historical, significance. Like there's like other maps from the 1920s. There's even that one from the 1500s, the Urbano Monte map going back then that has that type of a layout. It's also like used in like the United Nations logo and so on. So it is sort of out there as a thing. And I'm just saying it is understandable that some people would want a replacement. They want something to put on a t-shirt, something to hang a poster on the wall, kind of a thing. Instead of just being like, okay, I'm on this journey. I don't think it's a sphere. I think the Earth is planar, but I just don't know what the map is. Like that's a harder place to be in, just to be like, I do
Like-
not have a map, at all.
Like for example, Jeranism. The first time Jeranism said that he didn't have a model that works was 2018. But when he started off in 2016, he did subscribe to that particular model and said that this was it. And then later on, he changed the story and said, well, I don't have a model that works. And that was during my debate with him. So there was like a 2-year period where he held on to it, and then there was some sort of change that happened. That's just my experience with it.
Well, we can at least agree, right? Right, Gio? We can at least agree that the AE map at no point matches reality, right?
I wouldn't say at no point. It seems potentially could be accurate in the north to a degree, like up to the equator.
I mean, of course, the north, yes, but no other place than that. I mean, honestly, not even in the north, because when you're looking towards the south, you're basically looking all the way to the south on a flat Earth.
Well, it is accurate in terms of like the sun time, like as a sun clock, like where it's high noon. It is accurate in that way. Like it'll be high noon above South America, high noon above China, etc. in a clockwork fashion. It doesn't mean that's true. I'm just saying that if you're asking what parts of it do seem to match, the stars in the north, it may match to a degree.
Possibly, but as soon as you go to the southern hemisphere, that's when things change.
Even in the north, the stars don't exactly line up.
Correct. So when you guys say you don't have a map or model, and we understand why you guys say that, because the AE map, I mean, it's demonstrably not matching reality.
I wanted to post my model to the live stream, but it won't let me post to the live.
Now we see it. Is that your wife?
Yeah, that's my wife. That's my model.
Awesome.
And it works.
All right. I mean, B-Ball, what I would say is that I have not mapped the Earth. So I don't necessarily need to say I don't have one. I have not mapped it.
Have you verified that it's planar?
You can't do it yourself, Gio. Come on. I don't understand why you guys think
none of us have mapped the Earth, so none of us have them. Right. So would it be fair to say that none of us have a mapper model that we did ourselves? We only have attachments to what other people have claimed to have done, and then beliefs or faith based upon that. Because if you didn't have belief or faith, you would have mapped it yourself. So we're all in the same boat. We're human beings on a massive Earth. We have information out there that we can either go with or not go with. There's certain evidences and how those are claimed, how those are interpreted. And we could debate all day on the interpretation of those. And I think maybe you would even agree it's not just an easy shut and close case. I mean, there's PhDs coming in here all the time debating it for years and years and years. This is not something like if we were debating whether pigs can fly, it wouldn't be a very long debate. We could prove that pigs don't fly quite easily. It wouldn't even be nuanced enough, But this is obviously more complex than something like that.
Not really.
Oh, Gio, like you can't. Like, why do you guys think that you have to do
Not
everything
really.
yourself?
It's not.
You can't do everything. You can't do everything yourself, right? I can't like create a cell phone myself, right? I can't do everything myself. We have to at least rely on the expertise of others, right? I mean, why can't we just agree on that?
I agree with that to a certain extent. I do that all the time. If I take my car to the mechanic, I do trust them that they're going to fix the car and all that's often an example I use. I do have trust and faith when I get on an airplane that I'll be safe and so on. So yeah, we do that all the time. I suppose with this question though, like, I mean, another little example I just popped in my mind. If you buy a computer, when I turn it on, I don't think it's going to be a bomb that's going to explode. Like I have trust that it's not a bomb, for example. There's a lot of things like if I go buy a new computer, that's just a random example. So I agree with you. There is a lot of that goes on in life, and I don't think that's necessarily problematic. I suppose when it comes to this question, the shape of the Earth, the cosmology, on the large scale that we're talking about, like the massive shape of the Earth and so on, obviously this is a heavily in contention. Even globe folks that say they strongly believe it are still, 12 years, 10 to 12 years later, are still involved on a daily basis and still very committed to all this. So this is just one of those things where, are you going to go with the authority on this one or not? Basically, the shape of the Earth, and when it involves the space agencies, it's just it's a unique category.
Out of curiosity, I don't think you would define it as a map, but what about like measuring the radius of the Earth? I don't think you could put that in the map category. I think you can put that in a different category, like just figuring out the size of the damn thing. Would that be sufficient to like say, okay, well, I may not have a map in terms of like getting you directions to get to the nearest Taco Bell, but I can tell you what the radius is.
Yeah, we could get into that though, but the radius, how it's derived, can be argued that it is involved with the relationship of the sky and the ground, and not necessarily just something involved with the ground and the alleged center of the sphere. So the
Well,
radius
there's
value, how that's derived, has to do with the sky-ground relationship, not necessarily the ground-only relationship.
I would say it's more of a cumulative case that includes like being able to observe the stars and make measurements of them. There's also some ground-based observations in which you would essentially work backwards to see if what is seen matches what is expected if our original findings were true, so on and so forth. So if someone were to provide you with all that and it was, collected firsthand. So the guys actually went out, bought the kit that was needed, used that kit to make measurements, presented that. What would you call it? What category would you put that in?
Well, the thing is that I do think that radius value is something in our reality. It is a real thing. It's not just it's not like that 3959. It's not just a completely made up number. But the question is what is it actually related to? Like, is it related to a relationship between a planar surface Earth and the sky, whatever the sky may be, or is it have something to do with the relationship of just the ground, like the radius from this, the surface of the sphere to the center of the sphere? So I guess that would be the question: is where, if we agree that number is a thing in this world, then what is it? Is it a relationship of the sky, or is it something involved with the ground? So, I mean, we could go into that, or if others want to get into that discussion as well. I don't know if that completely answers. You're saying like, answers your question. You're saying what if somebody presented data and then is interpreting that data to be the radius of a sphere? How would that be interpreted? Is what you're saying?
I'm just no. I was asking like what category you would place that in, because obviously a map gives off this idea that you're able to use it to get to the nearest town or something, and having the distances that you would be accurate no matter which points you go to. Because on the AE map, if you make it accurate in between 2 points, you're going to completely screw up the distance between 2 other points. What I would be doing wouldn't be a solution for that particular problem in terms of directions, but in terms of just finding like, okay, what is the size of the damn thing? What would you call that a map, or would you call that something different?
Well, I would say that could be a feature of this realm. Let's say, like whatever you're referring to of deriving the radius, that could be a real feature of the realm that is a real evidence, a real observation. Because there's 2 things. Number one, if you presented something, if it was just completely not even a valid evidence, then that would just be an issue there. But if it is a valid evidence that is deriving that number, the 3,959 miles, let's say, then the next question would be, like, the category it would go in is, okay, what is that revealing? Like, is it exclusive to a sphere, or is it not exclusive to a sphere and can be interpreted or understood to be on derived on a planar surface with a sky that is, let's just say, functioning differently than what the globe Earth claims? So if that's the case, then it depends on whether it's exclusive to one or the other. If you're saying it has to be the radius of a sphere versus the radius of our vision or the radius of how the sky functions, for example.
It was like angles measured from a telescope type of deal, and you could apply those measurements to a flat Earth, but you would get contradictory answers as a result.
Yeah, so that's what we could dig into, which I imagine we've discussed what you would bring probably before, but if you wanted to bring it up, we could do it in a new day, a new version of it. But yeah, I mean, it would have to do with how that is interpreted, in that way.
Just let me know if you ever want to hear about it, and I'll be more than happy to provide what's requested.
I mean, do you claim it's exclusive to being the radius of a sphere?
Yes. If I apply those measurements to a flat Earth, then what happens is you get contradictory answers. So applying these measurements to a flat Earth would basically force the North Celestial Pole to be in multiple different spots all at the exact same time, which would be a contradiction.
Okay, but that's going off an assumption of a flat Earth, of a sky, of a particular. Like I'm assuming that you're assuming in that the stars are like fixed points at a fixed altitude above an Earth, for example, and that they're physical.
It's basically going on this. If we assume that the Earth is flat, and if we assume that the skies are the stars are at a altitude and don't change their position between simultaneous observations, then what would have to happen is that depending on where you're observing from, you would be essentially dictating that those points would be in different spots all at the exact same time. So it would be similar to saying that my dog is in my room while simultaneously being in the kitchen, even though I only have one dog. It's that level of contradiction.
Right. So basically, everyone on Earth would, if Polaris is at the height, right? Everyone on Earth would get the same height if they measured it at the same time.
Okay, and what if Polaris is not at a particular height? And what if it's something different than a physical object that's glowing, like a light bulb in the ceiling? What if it's something different? Then would it not then be exclusive to the globe?
No, that's actually
above
very
the flat
good.
Earth, it would have to be the same height, right?
Hang on, here's the answer to your question. The height of the North Celestial Pole, let's just say Polaris, even though it's not quite there, just for simplicity, let's just assume that Polaris is at the North Celestial Pole. It actually doesn't matter what the altitude of that star is, because so long as it's at a altitude, we would all simultaneously see it at that same altitude if the model was consistent. But what the flat Earth model requires in order for it to match observation is that it be in multiple different positions at the exact same time. So you can model this out on GeoGebra if you want, where it actually doesn't matter where you place the North Celestial Pole, Polaris, because once you make it correct for one location, you immediately screw it up for all the other locations that you would be observing from. And if you fix it for a different location, then you screw it up for the other locations that you would be observing from. So if you have 5 observations, only one of them is allowed to match reality and not all 5, if you were to map it on a flat Earth.
Correct. And it being in different heights would actually match the globe.
So if you go out with a telescope, which modern day telescopes have very, very accurate slew motors, and they can tell you exactly where it is in its travel. So you can use that, and it can say, hey, I'm just pulling a number out of my ass here. I'm 27 degrees altitude, and my azimuth is so-and-so. Okay, so you can write that down, go to a different location. And let's say you have a road that's traveling perfectly north and south. You can do a separate observation of the North Celestial Pole and track the difference in altitude between those two positions. Now, if you plot those 2 points on a sphere versus a flat Earth, you'll get 2 totally different answers. On a flat Earth, the North Celestial Pole, if you measure from Florida, would be just over the border of Canada. Well, we know that's not true. It's a lot further north than just the border of Canada. So that's a contradiction. But if you put it on a round Earth, then the contradiction goes away. There's no contradiction. It makes sense given the data that we see. So if we're asking the question, which model best fits the data that we were able to get without leading to a contradictory answer, the globe is the only one that actually makes sense.
But that's only with Polaris as a fixed point above a planar surface. What if it's not at a fixed altitude above a planar surface? What if it's not even a physical thing? What if it's light is like light pattern, like the interference of light, which is essentially what holograms are. Now, I'm not saying the sky is a hologram, but I'm just saying, just for the sake of the conversation, if Polaris is not a physical, like if you have a light bulb in your ceiling, it's a physical light bulb. It's at a particular position. You can go up, you can touch it, you can unscrew it, etc. Like a light bulb that's at a fixed position. What if the stars are not akin to light bulbs in the ceiling and function in another fashion? Does that
Gio, how
because
could
that whole thing
something that
involves
gives off light?
the
Hold on.
stars being at a consistent altitude over a
How
flat
could
plane.
something that gives off light not be physical though?
Well, like a rainbow.
I mean, but that's still a physical thing because there's water droplets and light.
Okay, well we don't. Yeah, but we don't know what's up in the sky. Like we haven't been able to go up there and get a sample of what it might be.
What I'm saying, if we agree, just for the sake of argument, that there is one light source, whether we want to say it's a star or a magical unicorn farts, it actually doesn't matter, because if we limit ourselves to just one star, one North Celestial Pole, then that's all we have to work with. And so if we were to look at the data and it demands that there be multiple points in order for there to be no contradictions, then we have a problem. But if we have a model that doesn't require there to be multiple points, then the problem goes away. So whether the star is physical or spiritual or whatever it is, it doesn't matter, because if we all agree that there's just one, and that's the one that we're all observing simultaneously, then we have a problem for the flat Earth.
Well, I'm just saying it gets into the question of what the sky is, like what it actually is and how it functions. So it does matter what the sky is, because what you're going off of is the foundation of the idea that the star is at a physical location, at one physical location.
So do you wish to put forth the idea that there are multiple stars or multiple North Celestial Poles on this flat Earth model, which would explain the observation, which would solve the contradiction?
Well, it could be, for example,
if you don't hear me say anything else, and we got some trees tonight, if you don't hear me say anything else, if you don't hear me say anything else,
Wesley, what the hell? Kick him out of here. What are you doing, Wesley?
The problem is that you haven't presented anything, and you're making hypotheticals.
No, this was actually done.
No, but this is a hypothetical according to us, because we haven't seen your data.
What's the hypothetical about it?
Well, I was going to use the example, like, you know how when you're looking at the sunset and you see that line of reflected light off the water that's going from the sun all the way to your feet, and then, if someone's 30 feet on the beach to the right of you, they see their own line, the own line of the sun reflecting off the water to their feet. You could have 100 people all on the beach, and they're all seeing their own line on the water, reflecting. But if you went out there with a drone or a boat or something, you can't actually pick up or see like 100 different lines of reflected light going to each one of those people's feet on the beach.
Seriously?
Yeah,
That's
you can't
your
go out there and see that. So my point is that the sky could be something that manifests individually for the person depending on your position, like the reflected sun off of the water.
But we're not talking about something that's on the horizon that has, a whole bunch of haze on it. This is stars that are way, way up in the sky. And if we were to map out these points and we were to plot them out, we still get consistent results every single time. So let's say, for example, because I know a particular question that people have is, well, how do you know that the results would be consistent? If I go out on a different night, would I be able to utilize these stars and get still consistent results? And the answer is yes, because that's how our modern telescopes work. The stars have to be accurate relative to each other in order for our pointing accuracy to be what they are. It's also what we do when we do EQ alignment with the North Celestial Pole. So the North Celestial Pole has to be an accurate reference point in order for our telescopes to even work in the first place. So I would argue that they are accurate, and refraction doesn't really explain it away. And so if we take these measurements and we take these points, and depending on the accuracy of your scope, which they can get really, really good depending on what you buy, you can actually do this observation in literally like 3 to 5 miles. So if you take one measurement at one location, drive 3 to maybe 5 miles directly north, and take another observation, your telescope will be accurate enough to read that difference to the point where you can get an accurate measurement for the radius of the Earth. We did this in my video where we measured the distance to the sun, and if I remember correctly, because this was years ago, we were like within 2 miles of the accepted value. So
Yeah, I'm not.
this is a good way of getting this data points, but you could stretch out to maybe 3 points of observation, maybe 4 points of observation, and then you are left with data that you can apply to 2 different models that are up for questioning. So if you put it on a flat Earth model, what you make work for one will automatically screw up the other 3 if you were to take like 4 measurements in total, for example.
And are you getting angles to the stars?
Yes. So on the telescope, they have slew motors. These slew motors report back to the hand controller, which reports to the computer that's plugged into where it's pointing. So it will give you an actual reading of altitude that you can then utilize.
Yeah, that's a problem though. You're getting
No, I mean,
angles.
go ahead, Elbow.
No, so that's a problem if he's getting angles.
Is that a problem?
I don't think so.
It's just a measurement.
Yeah, I mean, when I was saying the sun reflecting off the water, I'm not suggesting that the stars are just all in different positions for every person. Well, I mean, they are, depending on your position, they're going to be in a different position to you. But I do agree they're consistent in terms of like the GPs and the angles to the stars. Like, let's say minus refraction type of thing, down by the horizon. But there is a consistency. So I'm not suggesting that the sky is just like, like if the sky was like a huge LCD screen and you could just display anything you wanted on it, and as you moved, the whatever's projected on the LCD screen sky just changes. Like I'm not suggesting that it's all just, individual in that way, that it's just changing for each individual person. But I mean, Jeremy's had the idea of like a lenticular lens. If you're familiar with what lenticular lenses are.
I'm going to ask you to explain it to me because I don't know what that is.
Well, I'll post an image in the chat. We've all seen these where I just posted it at 25 after where you tilt the image and you see a different image.
And where did you post this?
And live stream 1.
Live stream 1. Okay, live stream 1. All right.
It's like one of those hologram things, Reds.
We've all seen those. Yeah, you used to get them in the Cracker Jack boxes where you tilt it and you get a different image.
Come on.
And then this image here shows like more of a technical graph of how this functions and how a lenticular lens functions. I'm just saying Jeremy has brought this up as an idea. I think he was maybe the first one.
B-Ball already said you're wrong, so you must be wrong. If that's not what it is. B-Ball said.
I would just have a follow-up question in regards to that. Yeah, first of all, very cool poster. I'll have to get one for myself. But the second question I have is, wouldn't there be a point along our northerly travel where we would see that transition? So if it operated in the same way as that poster that you shared, there would have to be some point along our travel, which if we were looking up, we would see that shift, we would see that transition. But I've never seen that. Has anyone ever seen that?
Well, I guess I'll say what this links to, well, first of all, it could be like an infinitely transforming lenticular holographic lens, the sky. Now, I don't have any way to prove that that's the case. I'm just saying when you're asking, because, okay, originally what you were talking about the angles to the sky, I actually don't agree. There's some of those arguments that I don't think a planar Earth with fixed star positions above a planar Earth suffice as a counter argument. That doesn't mean the Earth is a sphere, though. So that's the thing, in my viewpoint. That doesn't mean the Earth is a sphere. But I do think that the sky, there's certain components to it. Because, okay, if the sky is like, it's referred to as a celestial sphere. If the sky has a spherical component to it, in just leaving that simple, for that at the moment, like the sky has spherical coordinates or functions in a, like let's say a hemisphere or with spherical dynamics to it, that there could be a strong tendency to be able to extrapolate that nature of the sky to the ground and say we're on the sphere. And I think a lot of the arguments for the globe seem to hinge on that, of observations of the sky and how the sky functions, and then transporting that down to the ground. However, if you just take a simple opposite of that and say, okay, flat Earth with a flat sky and just stars fixed above, there are certain arguments that I don't like. I would not be able to argue that, because I actually agree with some of the arguments for the globe, at least that they wouldn't match with fixed stars above a fixed plane in that exact fashion. So I actually do think there is something else going on. Now, some people might say, well, then Geo, why don't you just go back to the globe and say it's a globe? Well, the problem is there's other issues, such as, is the Earth in motion? Does the Earth have curvature? And all of these other components as to what the Earth actually is outside of just these interpretations of the sky. So with all that being said, I do think there's a way in which, like, I am open-minded that the sky, like that lenticular lens effect, like, I hear what you're saying. It doesn't just transition, like you don't just move 5 feet, but what if it's always transitioning just by a tiny amount? Meaning as you move 10 feet to the right, 10 feet to the left, you're getting a slightly different lenticular observation of the sky. And if the sky, I mean, the Bible talks about it being like a, like a crystalline type of structure, or if the sky has like an infinitely reflecting crystalline superfluid or something to that extent. Now, let me just finish. I know there's a lot I said there, but I'm saying I am open to those ideas in terms of what the sky could actually be. And then lastly, what I was going to say, and just the last component to this, is I actually think, okay, I'll just say this very last part to this, because I know there's a lot I just said there, and to unpack all that. But this last little 10 seconds. So in my thoughts of it, in terms of why it would be, like, let's say it is like a lenticular holographic, thing. Let's say it is that, like something totally unlike anything we're aware of, like not just a simple light bulb in a ceiling, right? And even the globe model, I mean, light years away and in spheres in a vacuum, that's actually pretty wild too. So I mean, both of these ideas are pretty wild, the light years away and the gravity and the universe idea too. But anyways, if it was like this in terms of a planar surface, if you just had stars on like a flat ceiling, I don't think you would be able to actually do celestial navigation to get around the plane of the Earth. So if the sky actually has like a design to it that does have some kind of like a holographic nature or a lenticular lens nature, or something to where we're seeing this sort of like almost like an apparition of stars around us, depending on our position, meaning that we're seeing these light objects, but that they're not actually in like a physical place like that you could go and touch. And if they are like sort of manifestations in that way, then like I think there could actually be a reason for that, because the fact that we're able to see such a huge stretch of the sky in any one position on Earth, and we're able to celestially navigate, what I'm getting at is that if you were to be a designer of this realm and you were to make a flat plane and you were to be like, hey, I want to make the sky so that you could actually navigate around this plane, I don't think it would suffice to just have stars on a flat ceiling, because you'd get distortion of the stars at the horizon. It really wouldn't be able to function that way. So there might actually be a way, I've thought about, just that the design of the sky may actually be designed that way above the planar surface in this fashion, so that you can actually see that big of a stretch of it, almost like a hemisphere dome around you, the way you see the sky, and the positions of the stars all stay, in their angular relationship to each other, so that you can actually celestially navigate and you can actually get around the plane with the way the sky is designed that way.
You did say quite a lot there. Let me just kind of latch on to one thing that you said, Ed, this idea of a design there. So I'm assuming we're going to take on, for the sake of argument, that there is a designer, a person designed this realm, and they wanted it to at least be comprehensible so that we could navigate effectively. I don't think a flat Earth with a flat plane of stars would be that much of a challenge for us in terms of being able to navigate. We would just compensate accordingly. So for example, I can see a situation if the Earth were actually flat and we had a flat plate of stars right in front, right above us, we would just have to say, okay, what time is it and what star is directly above our heads? And that would tell us quite easily where we are on the flat Earth. So navigation wouldn't really be that big of a challenge for us if that were to be the case. So it being designed into the system to make it easier for us, it's not really an argument that I see that has a lot going for it. As far as the lensing effect, let's skip the idea that we don't have any evidence for this lensing effect. I'm looking for what we would expect to see if that were to be there. What behavior would we see with the stars? And you said a continuous, never-ending transition. Well, that continuous, never-ending transition, I imagine, would be detectable through our telescopes because you would be able to see, if I remember how those lenses work, it has little tiny ridges in it that kind of act like little prisms that redirect the light depending on how you're looking at it. And that can make the image not necessarily fine, but a little bit choppy. And you can see those waves of choppiness. If I were to defocus my telescope, I could get an effect similar to Schlier imaging. That's where you can literally see heat billowing up from my hands. It is that sensitive if I were to purposefully defocus my scope. So if I'm looking at a star, I should be able to see these lines, these lined patterns in the starlight as I travel. And these lines should shift depending on where I am. So if I'm in one location, the line is here, here, and here. But if I go further north, I still see three lines. They're just in a different position. But we don't see that. We see nice, clean starlight through our optics. So why would we take on the idea that there is this film or this lens when it's not giving off any sort of indication via just the light alone that it's actually there?
Okay. Well, yeah, that's implying that the lens would have like ridges in it, that the sky would function with a transitionary like warping effect at the midpoints of the lenticular lens. I mean, I guess I hear you. Like, if it was just a direct replication of a lenticular lens, I'm just saying the sky could have a lenticular lens type effect. Because the thing is, like, so if you had measurements that the Earth was absolutely not curving at all, and that's all you had, like you had tangible, so 100% you no longer think the Earth is curving, wouldn't you then be having the same conversation of how the sky is working? Meaning, if you knew for sure the Earth is not curving, like 100% it's not curving, wouldn't you then be sitting here like, okay, or think the Earth is curving, wouldn't you then be having the same conversation of how the sky is working? Meaning, if you knew for sure the Earth is not curving, like 100% it's not curving, wouldn't you then be sitting here like, okay, could it be a lenticular lens? Could it be have a holographic nature? Like, how is the sky? Like, you would still be in the mystery of how the sky is functioning.
Oh yeah, it would definitely be a mystery and it would definitely confuse the ever-living shit out of me, but I don't find myself in that position.
Yeah, but you do find yourself in your position still inquiring into this whole topic at the same time.
My main inquiry is based on what you think and what other people think, given the evidence presented. I'm perfectly confident saying that of the two models up for consideration, the globe Earth best comports with reality, and I'm not going to run away from that. That is my position. Would be cheap. have to, you know,